David, you can't wear that to the funeral. That's Nick's suit. Lauren's whisper cut through the hospital stairwell like glass scraping bone. Relax, babe. He won't even notice. Guy's a complete wreck. Nicholas Harris stood frozen on the landing above them, his mother's death certificate still warm in his trembling hands. Eleanor Harris, time of death 11:47 p.m., listening to his wife of 7 years and his best friend since high school laugh about wearing his clothes to his mother's funeral. His mother had been dead for exactly 47 minutes. When are we telling him? Lauren's voice dropped lower. About us? About everything. Tonight. After the funeral. He'll be too destroyed to fight. We take the truck, the tools, whatever's left in their apartment. Then we're gone. Free. And the inheritance? You really think Eleanor had life insurance? David laughed, a sound that would haunt Nicholas for months. That broke nurse? Are you kidding? She died owing the hospital $60,000. Nick's about to inherit nothing but debt. Which is why we're getting out now, before he drags us down with him. Nicholas gripped the railing, his vision blurring. What they didn't know, what Nicholas didn't know yet, was that Eleanor Harris wasn't broke. She was Eleanor Bancroft Harris, sole heiress to Bancroft Pharmaceuticals, worth $6.8 billion. And for the past 6 months, she'd been recording every single conversation his wife and best friend had, every text message, every whispered plan to abandon him the moment she died. And in exactly 4 hours and 23 minutes, when Nicholas finally opened the safety deposit box his dying mother had made him promise to find, when he discovered the flash drive labeled "For Nicky, play this first," and heard his mother's voice say, "Baby, I'm so sorry. But you need to see who they really are," David Clark would lose everything he'd spent 10 years building. And Lauren? Lauren would lose something even more valuable than money. She'd lose the baby she was carrying, Nicholas's baby, the one she was planning to abort tomorrow so she could start fresh with David. But here's the part that'll rip your heart out and put it back together. Eleanor Harris knew. She knew everything. And she'd spent her last 2 weeks on Earth making absolutely certain that when these two vultures tried to pick her son's bones clean, they'd discover they'd actually destroyed themselves. Listen to me right now. If you've ever trusted someone who stabbed you in the back, if you've ever loved someone who saw you as a stepping stone, if you've ever been kicked when you were already down, don't you dare scroll past this story. Because what's about to happen to Nicholas, to Lauren, to David, is going to show you something you need to see. Betrayal doesn't define you. It reveals them. And if you've ever needed proof that karma is real, that justice exists, that good people don't finish last, they finish victorious, then drop a comment right now that says, "I'm stronger than they know." Say it. Mean it. Because Nicholas is about to prove it's true. Now let me take you back 72 hours, to the moment everything fell apart and came together at the same time. The ICU at Georgetown University Hospital smelled like antiseptic and broken dreams. Nicholas had been sitting in that plastic chair for 19 hours straight, his mother's hand clasped in his, watching the monitors count down her final moments in beeps that kept getting slower, quieter, weaker. Eleanor Harris, to the world, just another overworked night shift nurse in faded scrubs, lay beneath white sheets, her dark skin looking gray under the fluorescent lights. At 58 years old, she looked ancient. The stroke had come out of nowhere. Massive. Catastrophic. The doctor said maybe hours, maybe minutes. Nicholas's phone buzzed in his lap. Lauren. Again. Still at the hospital? David and I are grabbing dinner. Don't wait up. He stared at the text. His mother was dying right now, and Lauren was having dinner with David. Again. For the 3rd time this week. Something cold settled in his chest, but he pushed it away. Lauren was just being supportive. David was helping her cope. They were his family too. Family. Eleanor's eyes fluttered open, still sharp despite everything shutting down. "Nicky," she whispered, her voice like paper tearing. "I'm here, Mom. Right here. Need to tell you something important." Each word was agony. "Save your strength. We can talk when you're..." No. Her grip tightened with surprising force. "No more pretending. This is it, baby. And you need to know everything." Tears slid down Nicholas's face. "Mom, please." "In my apartment. Bedroom closet. Behind the photo albums." She coughed, her whole body convulsing. "Safety deposit box key. First National Bank. Box 2847. Everything you need is there. What are you talking about? What's in the box? Her eyes found his, and in them he saw something he'd never seen before, not fear of dying, but fear of leaving him unprepared. Promise me. Promise you'll go there before you do anything else. Before you tell Lauren. Before you tell David. Especially before you tell David. Nicholas's breath caught. Why? Mom, what? Because he's not your friend, baby. Her voice gained sudden strength. And she doesn't love you. Not the way you deserve. Mom, that's not. I know, Nicholas. She pulled him close, her breath rattling. I've known for 6 months. I've seen them. I've heard them. And I've been protecting you. The machines started changing rhythm. Beeps spreading further apart. A nurse rushed in, checked monitors, looked at Eleanor with gentle eyes. Mrs. Harris, should we? No machines, Eleanor whispered. Just my son. The nurse nodded and quietly left. Eleanor looked at Nicholas, and despite everything, she smiled. You know what the best day of my life was? Nicholas shook his head, unable to speak. The day I chose you over everything else. The day I walked away from billions to raise you right. To teach you that character matters more than cash, that love is worth more than luxury. Billions? Mom, what are you? My real name is Eleanor Bancroft Harris. Bancroft Pharmaceuticals. My family's empire. Each word was harder now. I was supposed to marry some senator's son. Take over the company. But I met your daddy at a community center. He was teaching kids carpentry for free. And I knew he was my real life. Nicholas's mind was spinning. You've been rich this whole time. Not rich, baby. Wealthy. But I gave it up because I wanted you to grow up normal. To marry someone who loved you, not your bank account. To know your own strength. Her breathing was labored now. But I never stopped managing it. The money. Growing it. Protecting it. For you. The monitors were screaming. The deposit box, Eleanor gasped. Flash drive. Watch it. Everything's explained. The trusts, the protections, she pulled him close with her last bit of strength. Trust the plan, Nicky. I know it's going to hurt. I know what's coming. But trust the plan. What's coming? Mom, what do you mean? But her eyes were closing. You are never alone. You are never poor. You are never powerless. Mama made sure of that. Mom, no. Please. I love you, Nicholas. More than all the money in the world. You are my greatest treasure. And baby, her voice dropped to barely a whisper. When they betray you tomorrow, when they show you who they really are, remember, they're not leaving you. They're freeing you. Who? Mom, who's going to? But the machines flatlined. That sound, that long endless scream of silence, would echo in Nicholas's ears for the rest of his life. He collapsed onto her chest, sobbing into her hospital gown, breathing in the smell of her for the last time. That mix of cocoa butter lotion and lavender soap and unconditional love. He didn't hear the door open. Didn't hear the nurses come in. Didn't hear them gently tell him it was time. All he heard was the silence where his mother's voice used to be. And in his pocket, his phone buzzed. Lauren, David's staying over at our place tonight. His apartment's getting fumigated. That's cool, right? Nicholas stared at the text through tears, his mother's words echoing, he's not your friend. And she doesn't love you. For the first time in 7 years of marriage, Nicholas wondered if his mother had been trying to warn him about something he'd been too blind to see. He stepped into the hallway, pulling himself together enough to call Lauren. She picked up on the 4th ring, music and laughter loud in the background. Hey babe. What's up? Mom's gone. His voice cracked. She's gone. Oh, Nick. I'm so sorry. She didn't sound sorry. She sounded distracted. Can you come? I need you. I don't know what to do, I don't know how to. Of course, yeah, absolutely. David, hang on. Let me just finish dinner and I'll head over. Okay? Give me like an hour. An hour. His mother just died and his wife needed an hour to finish dinner. Lauren, please. I need you now. Nick, I'm already on my way, okay? Just breathe. I'll be there soon. She hung up. Nicholas stood in that fluorescent hallway, his mother's body cooling in the room behind him, and checked Lauren's Instagram. The latest post, uploaded 8 minutes ago, Lauren and David, dressed up, at some trendy restaurant in Georgetown. Her hand on his arm. Both of them smiling. The caption, sometimes the best therapy is good food and great company. Red heart. Posted 8 minutes ago. Posted after Nicholas told her his mother had died. He scrolled further. More photos. Weeks of them. Lauren and David at the wharf. At a Nationals game. At what looked like a hotel rooftop bar, her head on his shoulder, his arm around her waist. All posted while Eleanor was dying. While Nicholas was sitting vigil, holding his mother's hand, watching her fade. The photos went back 6 months. 6 months of lies. Nicholas leaned against the wall and slid down to the floor, his mother's death certificate crumpling in his fist, and finally let himself see what Eleanor had been trying to protect him from. His wife was in love with his best friend. And they'd been waiting for his mother to die so they could leave him without feeling guilty. Rain hammered down on Oak Hill Cemetery like the sky was trying to drown the world. Nicholas stood at the edge of his mother's grave, a simple plot she'd prepaid for years ago, watching them lower the casket into the ground. The cheap casket. The only one he could afford after the hospital bills. There were maybe 40 people there. Nurses from Georgetown Hospital. Neighbors from her apartment building in Columbia Heights. Some elderly patients she'd cared for over the years. People whose lives Eleanor Harris had touched with her kindness, her late-night shifts, her refusal to give up on anyone. Lauren stood beside him, holding an umbrella over her own head. Not his. Nicholas was soaked through his suit, his only suit, the one he'd worn to their wedding, clinging to his skin. David stood on his other side, dry under a golf umbrella, checking his phone every few minutes. When the preacher said, "Ashes to ashes, dust to dust," David sighed loud enough for Nicholas to hear it. Nicholas turned to look at him, really look at him, and saw a stranger. This man who'd been his best friend since they were 14. Who'd taught him to drive. Who'd been his best man. Who'd held Nicholas when his father died in that construction accident 10 years ago. This man who'd spent the last 6 months sleeping with his wife. After the service, as people filed past offering condolences Nicholas would never remember, David leaned close and whispered, "Hey man. I need to talk to you later. About some business stuff. Important." Nicholas's jaw tightened. Business stuff. At my mother's funeral. I know. Bad timing. But there's this investment opportunity closing tomorrow and I think you should. David. Nicholas's voice was flat. Dead. My mother just died. Right. Yeah. Sorry. David had the decency to look uncomfortable. We'll talk later. He walked away, pulling out his phone before he'd even made it to his car. An elderly nurse approached, Mrs. Patterson, who'd worked alongside Eleanor for 20 years. She pulled Nicholas into a fierce hug that smelled like peppermint and grief. "Your mama was the best woman I ever knew," she whispered. "Every shift, she talked about you. My Nicky," she'd say. "He's got his daddy's hands and my heart. Best thing I ever did in this life." Nicholas couldn't speak. Just nodded, tears mixing with rain on his face. "She told me something 2 weeks ago." Mrs. Patterson's eyes were knowing. She said, "Helen, my boy is about to go through something that'll either break him or make him. But I've given him everything he needs to survive it. He just doesn't know it yet." She squeezed his hand. "Whatever you're facing, baby, your mama already prepared you for it. Trust that." She walked away, leaving Nicholas standing alone in the rain, those words echoing. Whatever you're facing, your mama already prepared you for it. That night, Nicholas sat in his mother's tiny apartment in Columbia Heights, the place she'd lived for 35 years, paying $800 a month when she could have bought the whole building. The threadbare couch. The TV from 2003. The kitchen table where she taught him to read, to do math, to dream. He should have been packing her things. Should have been dealing with the hospital bills, $60,000 they said he owed, for 2 weeks of watching his mother die. But he couldn't move. He just sat there in her oversized Redskins hoodie, breathing in the fading smell of her, trying to understand what she'd meant about the safety deposit box, about protecting him, about being a Bancroft. His phone rang. David. Hey man. You doing okay? No, David. I'm not okay. I buried my mother today. Right, yeah, I know. Heavy. Listen, about that investment thing. I really think you should consider it. It's a ground floor opportunity, real estate development in Nova. I'm putting in $50K, but if you could match that, we'd be partners. Equal split. Nicholas's head was pounding. David, I don't have $50K. I barely have $5,000 after the funeral costs. What about your mom's savings? Life insurance. There is no life insurance. She was a nurse, David. She lived paycheck to paycheck. What about the apartment? You could sell her stuff, take out a loan against. Are you seriously asking me to liquidate my dead mother's belongings to invest in your real estate scheme? It's not a scheme, Nick. It's an opportunity. I'm trying to help you here. You're going to need income now that. Now that what? Nothing. Forget it. Bad timing. We'll talk later. He hung up. Nicholas sat there staring at his phone, his mother's words echoing, especially before you tell David. He opened Instagram. Lauren's latest post, uploaded 2 hours ago, her and David at his apartment, boxes of Chinese food spread out, both of them in comfortable clothes, laughing. The caption, grief makes you appreciate the people who show up. Folded hands. The comments were full of heart emojis. Friends saying, you're such a good friend for being there for Nick. Lauren, you're amazing. David, you're a real one. Nicholas felt something crack inside him. He grabbed his keys, drove to First National Bank, and waited in the parking lot until morning. Nicholas sat in that parking lot for 6 hours, his mother's death certificate on the passenger seat, watching the sun come up over D.C., and thought about all the people in the world sitting in parking lots right now, alone, betrayed, wondering if they'd survive what was coming. If you're one of those people, if you're sitting somewhere right now feeling like the world abandoned you, like you lost everything, like you'll never recover, I need you to know something. You're about to witness what happens when someone who thinks they destroyed you realizes they actually freed you. And if that's you, if you've ever been underestimated, left behind, or told you weren't enough, then you need to be here for what happens next. Because Nicholas's story is about to become your permission to rise. At 9 a.m., Nicholas walked into First National Bank on Pennsylvania Avenue, his mother's key clutched in his fist like a talisman. I need to access safety deposit box 2847, he told the woman at the desk. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. Then she paused. Looked up at him with new eyes. One moment, please. I need to get the branch manager. A man in an expensive suit appeared within minutes. Mr. Harris? I'm Gerald Pemberton, branch manager. Please follow me. He led Nicholas to a private viewing room, used 2 keys to open the box, and then quietly excused himself. Inside was a large manila envelope and a small flash drive with a label in his mother's handwriting, "For Nicky, play this first." Nicholas's hands shook as he pulled out his laptop, inserted the drive, and clicked play. His mother's face appeared on screen. She was in her apartment, looking tired but determined. This had been recorded maybe 3 weeks ago. "Hi baby," she said, and Nicholas's breath caught. "If you're watching this, I'm gone. And I'm so sorry I'm not there to hold you through what you're about to discover." She took a deep breath. "Nicholas, for the past 6 months, I've been watching your wife and your best friend plan to leave you the moment I died. I've heard every conversation. I've seen every text. And I've been recording all of it." The screen changed. Security footage. His apartment. Lauren and David on Nicholas's couch, his couch kissing. Her straddling him. His hands in her hair. The timestamp, 3 months ago. A Tuesday afternoon when Nicholas had been at Georgetown Hospital, holding his mother's hand during a chemo session that insurance wouldn't cover. Nicholas's stomach lurched. Eleanor's voice continued, "I installed cameras in your apartment 4 months ago. Not to invade your privacy, baby, but because I heard Lauren on the phone one night when she thought I was sleeping. She was in my hospital room, and she said, 'The moment that old woman dies, we're out. Take the truck, the tools, whatever we can liquidate. Then we're free. The footage continued. Weeks of it. Lauren and David in Nicholas's bed. David wearing Nicholas's clothes. Lauren trying on expensive jewelry Nicholas had never seen, laughing as David told her, "Just wait, babe. Once my company goes public, we'll have the life you deserve. No more pretending to love that loser." That loser. His best friend. Calling him a loser. In his own home. Eleanor's face returned to the screen, and she was crying. "Baby, I'm so sorry you had to see that. But you need to know who they are before I tell you who you are." She wiped her tears. "My name is Eleanor Bancroft Harris. I'm the sole heir to Bancroft Pharmaceuticals, founded by my grandfather in 1962. When I was 23, my family tried to force me to marry." Senator Morrison's son, a man I'd met twice. They said it was about maintaining the legacy, about strategic alliance. But I met your daddy at a community center in Southeast. He was teaching foster kids carpentry every Saturday for free, because he said every kid deserves to build something with their own hands. She smiled through tears. I fell in love with him in about 10 minutes. And when my family found out, when they discovered I was dating the help's son, as my mother called him, they gave me an ultimatum, him or the inheritance. I chose him, Nicholas. Every single time, I chose love. And I never, ever regretted it. But I didn't give up the money, baby. I just hid it. Managed it through attorneys. Let it grow. Because I knew someday you'd need it. Not to make you soft, but to protect you from people who'd use you, who'd see you as a stepping stone, who'd mistake your kindness for weakness. The screen shifted to documents. Account statements. Stock certificates. Property deeds. Current estate value, $6.8 billion. And as of 2 weeks ago, when David visited me in the hospital and spent 15 minutes asking if I had life insurance to offset Nicholas's burden, I restructured everything into an irrevocable trust that protects you completely. Nicholas's vision blurred. 6.8 billion. With AB. But Nicholas, here's what I need you to understand. This money doesn't define you. Your character does. Your integrity. Your capacity to love people who don't deserve it. David and Lauren are going to leave you thinking you have nothing. Let them think that. For now. Because I've set something up, something that'll show them exactly what they threw away, but only when the time is right. She leaned closer to the camera. In this envelope, you'll find the name of my attorney, your cousin actually, Harold Bancroft, and instructions for everything. The trust. The properties. The investments. But more importantly, you'll find a plan. A plan I've spent 6 months building to make sure that when those two vultures try to pick your bones clean, they discover they've actually destroyed themselves. Trust the plan, baby. Trust that Mama knew what she was doing. And remember, you are never alone. You are never poor. You are never powerless. I made sure of that. Her expression softened. Now go call Harold. He's waiting for you. And Nicholas? When this is over, when you've risen from these ashes, I want you to promise me something. Build a life so beautiful, so meaningful, that Lauren and David spend the rest of their days choking on regret. Not because you're cruel, but because you're magnificent. I love you, baby. More than all the billions in the world. The screen went black. Nicholas sat in that room for 2 hours, watching the footage over and over. Every kiss. Every cruel word. Every moment of intimacy in his home, in his bed, with his wife and his best friend. But he wasn't crying anymore. He was thinking. His phone buzzed. Lauren, hey, can David borrow your truck today? His car's in the shop and he has meetings. I'll drop you off at work. Nicholas stared at the text, his mother's plan crystallizing in his mind. He typed back, yeah, no problem. Keys are on the hook. Then he opened the envelope and called Harold Bancroft. Nicholas came home from his carpentry job at 6 p.m. to find Lauren and David sitting at his kitchen table. Waiting. Lauren's suitcases were packed by the door. We need to talk, she said. Nicholas set down his lunchbox, still carrying the sandwich his mother used to make him every morning, even when she was dying, and looked at his wife. Really looked at her. She was beautiful. He'd always thought so. That's why he'd spent 3 months' salary on her engagement ring 7 years ago. Why he'd worked double shifts to afford their honeymoon in Myrtle Beach. Why he'd believed her every time she said she loved him. Okay, he said calmly. Let's talk. David stood up, uncomfortable. Look man, there's no easy way to say this. Then just say it. Lauren took a breath. I want a divorce, Nick. The words hung in the air. Why? Nicholas asked, even though he knew. Even though he'd watched hours of footage. He needed to hear her say it. Because I'm not happy. I haven't been for a long time. Her voice was rehearsed. You're stuck, Nick. You're a carpenter making $40,000 a year. We live in a 1-bedroom apartment. We can't afford to go anywhere, do anything. And with your mom gone. She trailed off. With my mom gone, what? You're going to be even more of a mess. Even more burdensome. Burdensome. The same word David had used in the hospital stairwell. And David. Nicholas's voice was still calm. Where does he fit into this? Lauren and David exchanged glances. We're together, David said. Have been for a while. It just happened, man. Neither of us meant to hurt you. How long? Does it matter? Lauren's tone was defensive now. How long? 6 months, David admitted. Since your mom got sick. Nicholas nodded slowly. So while I was at the hospital, watching my mother die, you two were. Don't make this harder than it needs to be, Lauren interrupted. We can do this civilly. I've already talked to a lawyer. You keep the apartment, the tools, whatever furniture you want. I just want to move on. To what? To him. David stepped forward. Nick, I know this is a lot. But Lauren and I, we have a real connection. We want to build a life together. A successful life. And you. He gestured around the small apartment. You're always going to be here, man. Working with your hands. Barely scraping by. That's fine for you, but Lauren deserves more. Lauren deserves more. Nicholas felt something cold and sharp settle in his chest. You're right, he said quietly. They both looked surprised. I am. Lauren asked. Yeah, you deserve more. Nicholas pulled out his phone, opened Instagram, showed her the comments on her latest post. You deserve all those people telling you what a great friend you are. What an amazing person. You deserve that lie. Her face went pale. And David. Nicholas turned to his best friend. You deserve to build a successful life. You deserve everything you've worked for. David's jaw tightened. Are you being sarcastic? No. I mean it. Nicholas grabbed a piece of paper from the counter, scribbled something, and handed it to him. That's the title to my truck. It's paid off. Take it. Consider it a wedding gift. Wedding gift. Lauren's voice cracked. Isn't that what this is? You're leaving me to marry him, right? I saw the rings, Nicholas continued. In your purse, Lauren. Matching bands. Already engraved. D and L forever. Very romantic. Lauren's face flushed. Nick, It's fine. Really. He pulled out a pen, signed the truck title, and handed it to David. Take it. Take whatever you want. I don't need it anymore. David looked at the title, confused. Why are you being so cool about this? Because my mother taught me that you can't lose what's truly yours, and you can't keep what was never meant to stay. What's that supposed to mean? You'll figure it out. Lauren grabbed her suitcases. David pocketed the truck title. They headed for the door. Lauren paused, looked back. For what it's worth, Nick, I hope you find someone who's enough for you. Someone on your level. Nicholas smiled. I hope you find what you're looking for too, Lauren. I really do. They left. The door closed. Nicholas stood in the silence of his empty apartment and called Harold Bancroft. It's time, he said. Let's begin. Lauren and David got married at the courthouse 4 days after the divorce was finalized. Nicholas knew because they posted it on Instagram. Lauren in a white dress from Nordstrom Rack, David in a suit Nicholas recognized as his own, both of them beaming in front of the DC Marriage Bureau. The caption, "When you know you know. Here's to new beginnings and the life we deserve. Ring." The comments were brutal. Wasn't she just married to that other guy? This is literally 4 days after her divorce. Yikes. David, weren't you his best friend? This is messed up. But there were supportive comments too. People who didn't know the timeline. People who believed in love conquering all. Nicholas didn't comment. Didn't react. Didn't do anything. He just went to work every day at his carpentry shop in Northeast DC, building furniture with his hands, exactly like his father had taught him. Except now, he owned the building. And the one next to it. And 12 others across the city. Harold Bancroft had explained everything. Eleanor had spent 35 years quietly buying properties across DC, always in working-class neighborhoods, always below market value, always with an eye toward the future. Your mother believed in investing in communities, not exploiting them, Harold had said in their first meeting. Every property she bought, she kept rents affordable, maintained impeccably, and passed down to tenants who wanted to buy. She built generational wealth for hundreds of families. Nicholas had inherited all of it, along with stock portfolios, art collections, and liquid assets that made his head spin. But he didn't change anything about his life. Not yet. He still lived in the one-bedroom apartment. Still drove to work sites in a borrowed truck. Still ate packed lunches and wore the same Carhartt jacket he'd owned for 5 years. Because his mother's plan required patience. David's real estate company is leveraged to the breaking point, Harold had explained. He's taken on massive debt to project success. In 3 weeks, his biggest investor is pulling out, someone your mother arranged to lose confidence in him. When that happens, he'll be desperate. And Lauren. Harold's expression darkened. Your mother discovered something. Lauren is pregnant. Nicholas's world tilted. What? 8 weeks. She found out 2 weeks before your mother died. Your mother overheard her on the phone with David, discussing whether to deal with it before telling you. Deal with it. The words tasted like poison. She was going to abort my baby. She still might. Unless she thinks David's money can support a child. Nicholas felt rage, so pure it scared him. What do I do? Exactly what your mother planned. You wait. You watch. And when the time is right, you show them who you really are. Now, 3 weeks later, Nicholas sat in his apartment and opened his laptop to an email from Harold. It's done. David's primary investor withdrew $4 million this morning. His company has 72 hours before bankruptcy. He'll be getting the notice within the hour. Phase 2 begins now. Nicholas's phone rang. David. He let it go to voicemail. It rang again. Again. Finally, Nicholas answered. Nick, man, I need to talk to you. David's voice was frantic. It's an emergency. What kind of emergency? My company. My investor pulled out. $4 million. Just gone. I'm going under, Nick. I'm going to lose everything. Nicholas waited. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. But man, we've been brothers since we were kids. I need help. I need a loan. Just $50K to keep the doors open until I can find another investor. You want me to loan you $50,000. I'll pay you back. With interest. I swear. Please, Nick. I'm drowning here. Nicholas thought about his mother, about the flash drive, about Lauren straddling David on his couch while he held Eleanor's hand in the hospital. No, he said quietly. What? I said no, David. Nick, please. I'm begging you. I'll do anything. Then you should have thought about that before you slept with my wife in my bed while my mother was dying. Heavy and suffocating. You knew. I know everything, David. Every conversation. Every lie. Every moment you thought you were getting away with it. Nick, man, I can explain. I don't want your explanations. I want you to feel exactly what I felt when I stood in that hospital stairwell and heard you laugh about wearing my suit to my mother's funeral. Nicholas hung up. 2 hours later, Lauren called. Is it true? Her voice was shaking. Did you really refuse to help David? Yes. Nick, he's going to lose his company. We're going to lose everything. The apartment, the car, everything. Then I guess you should have chosen better. You're being cruel. No, Lauren. I'm being honest. You left me because you thought I had nothing. Because David looked successful. Turns out you were wrong about both of us. What's that supposed to mean? It means you played the game, and you lost. Now live with it. He hung up. His phone exploded with texts. Lauren, you're really going to let him lose everything? After everything we went through together. David, I thought you were better than this. Lauren, I'm pregnant, Nick. Pregnant. With your baby. And you're going to let us go bankrupt. Nicholas stared at that last text for a long time. She'd told David it was his. He'd seen the text on the flash drive. I'm pregnant. Don't worry, I'll tell Nick it's yours so he helps with costs. Then we'll deal with it. But now she was claiming it was Nicholas's. Hedging her bets. He typed back, if it's really mine, prove it. DNA test after birth. Until then, that's David's problem, not mine. He blocked both their numbers and called Harold. I'm ready for phase 3. That night, Nicholas stood on the balcony of his mother's old apartment and looked out over Washington, D.C. Somewhere out there, Lauren and David were panicking, scrambling, realizing that the man they'd left for dead was actually the one holding all the cards. And if you're watching this right now, wondering if you have the strength to do what Nicholas did, to walk away from people who hurt you, to protect yourself, to rise when everyone expects you to stay down, I need you to know something. You do. You absolutely do. But you have to make a choice. You have to decide that you're worth more than their betrayal. That your story doesn't end with them winning. And if you're ready to make that choice, if you're ready to see how this ends, then you need to be subscribed to this channel. Because what happens next is going to change everything. 2 months later, Nicholas launched the Eleanor Harris Foundation with a quiet press release. In memory of Eleanor Bancroft Harris, Georgetown University hospital nurse and Bancroft Pharmaceuticals heiress, this foundation will provide scholarships, housing assistance, and business grants to families of blue-collar workers across the D.C. metro area. Initial endowment, $1 billion. The story exploded. Every news outlet in the city picked it up. Secret billionaire lived as nurse for 35 years, Bancroft heiress chose love over fortune, leaves empire to son Georgetown nurse was worth $6.8 billion. And in every article, they mentioned Nicholas Harris, carpenter, son, heir. Lauren saw it on CNN while sitting in the tiny apartment she and David had moved into after losing everything. David saw it on his phone while filling out bankruptcy paperwork. They both realized the same thing at the same time. They'd left a billionaire. Lauren called from a new number. Nicholas answered on speaker, Harold listening on the line. Nick. Her voice was shaking. I saw the news. About your mom. About you. Yeah. You've been rich this whole time? No, Lauren. I've been wealthy. There's a difference. And you didn't tell me? I didn't know. My mother structured it so I'd inherit after she died. After you left. This isn't fair, Nick. We were married. I'm entitled to nothing. The divorce was finalized before I inherited. And even if it wasn't, my mother put everything in an irrevocable trust that protects it from exactly this kind of claim. But I'm pregnant with your baby. Prove it. DNA test. Until then, that's David's problem. David's broke. His company went bankrupt. We have nothing. And whose fault is that? He could hear her crying now. Ugly, desperate sobs. Please, Nick. Please. I made a mistake. A terrible mistake. But you can't just abandon us. We're drowning. Nicholas thought about his mother, about the night she died, about trust the plan. Lauren, you made your choice. You chose David because you thought he was successful. You left me because you thought I was a failure. You don't get to come back now that you know the truth. But the baby. If it's mine, I'll support the child. Not you. Not David. The child. After a DNA test proves it. And if I refuse? Then I guess you'll figure it out on your own. Like you planned to make me do. He hung up. 2 days later, Nicholas got a call from an unknown number. David. Nick. We need to meet. No, we don't. Please. Man to man. Just hear me out. Against his better judgment, Nicholas agreed to meet at a coffee shop in DuPont Circle. David looked terrible. Unshaven. Exhausted. The confidence gone, replaced by something that looked like desperation. Thank you for coming, David said. Nicholas said nothing. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. But Nick, we've been friends since we were 14. That has to count for something. It did count for something. That's why it hurt so much when you betrayed me. David's eyes filled with tears. I was stupid. I was selfish. Lauren, she made me feel like I was more than I was. Like I was successful, important. And I thought leaving you would make me free. And did it? David laughed bitterly. I lost everything, Nick. My company, my reputation, my money. Investors won't touch me. Lauren blames me for everything. She says if I just stayed friends with you, we could have had access to your money. That I ruined her life. And what do you want from me? I want to know if there's any chance you'd forgive me. Help me. Give me another shot. Nicholas looked at the man who used to be his best friend and felt nothing. No anger, no sympathy, just emptiness. David, my mother spent her last days watching you and Lauren mock me. Watching you plan to steal from me. And instead of exposing you, instead of warning me, she recorded everything. She built a protection plan around me. She spent her dying moments making sure that when you betrayed me, you'd actually destroy yourselves. David's face went pale. That's the difference between her and you. She used her power to protect. You used your friendship to exploit. And now you want me to save you from the consequences of your own choices. Nick. The answer is no. You made your bed with my wife. Now sleep in it. Nicholas stood up and walked away. Behind him, David collapsed onto the table, sobbing. 4 months later, Lauren went into labor. Nicholas got the call from a hospital social worker. Mr. Harris, your ex-wife Lauren Harris has listed you as the father of her child. She's requesting your presence. Nicholas drove to Sibley Memorial Hospital, Harold Bancroft beside him, DNA test kit in hand. They found Lauren in a recovery room, alone, holding a tiny baby girl. She looked up when Nicholas entered, her face exhausted and tear-streaked. She's yours, Lauren whispered. I know I lied about a lot of things. But she's yours, Nick. I swear. Nicholas looked at the baby. She had his mother's eyes. DNA test, he said quietly. Lauren nodded. Okay. But Nick. David left. When the medical bills started coming, when he realized how much a baby costs, he left. Said he couldn't handle it. Nicholas felt nothing for her. But looking at that baby, his possible daughter, he felt everything. The DNA test came back 3 days later, 99.9% probability of paternity. Nicholas hired a team of lawyers and filed for full custody. Lauren didn't fight it. I can't take care of her, she admitted in the courthouse hallway. I can barely take care of myself. David's gone. I'm living in my car. I've got nothing, Nick. Nothing. Nicholas looked at the woman he'd once loved and saw a stranger. You had everything, he said quietly. You just didn't know it. He won full custody. Named his daughter Eleanor Lauren Harris, after the woman who'd saved him and the woman who'd taught him who not to become. Nicholas stood in the new Eleanor Harris Community Center in Anacostia, watching kids learn carpentry, coding, art, all free, all funded by his mother's foundation. Little Eleanor, Ellie he called her, sat in a baby carrier on his chest, watching everything with curious eyes. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I saw the community center. It's beautiful. You're doing what your mom would have wanted. I'm happy for you. L. Nicholas didn't respond. 2 months later, he heard through mutual friends that Lauren had moved to Richmond, started working at a diner, was trying to get her life together. David had declared bankruptcy and moved back in with his parents in Ohio. They'd both lost everything chasing a fantasy of wealth, not realizing they'd already been standing next to it. Nicholas built 47 more community centers across the country. He stayed in his one-bedroom apartment for 2 more years, then bought a modest house in Tacoma Park with a workshop in the back. He taught Ellie to build things with her hands, told her stories about her grandmother every night, made sure she understood that wealth wasn't about money, it was about character, integrity, the strength to choose love over greed. On Eleanor's 3rd birthday, Nicholas took her to Oak Hill Cemetery. They placed yellow roses on her grandmother's grave, the same roses Eleanor Bancroft Harris had loved her whole life. "Tell me about Grandma," Ellie said. Nicholas smiled. "Your grandma was the richest woman in the world. Not because of money, but because she knew what actually mattered. And she spent her whole life teaching me that lesson." "What lesson?" "That the people who leave you are making room for the life you are always meant to live. That betrayal reveals character. That real power isn't about destroying your enemies, it's about becoming so magnificent they destroy themselves." Ellie thought about that. "Did someone leave you, Daddy?" "Yes, baby. They did." "And did they destroy themselves?" Nicholas looked at his daughter's curious face and felt his mother's presence like sunlight. "Yeah, sweetheart. They did." "Good," Ellie said with 3-year-old certainty. "Because you're the best daddy in the whole world." Nicholas pulled her close, breathing in the smell of her baby shampoo and innocence, and whispered the same words his mother had whispered to him. "You are never alone. You are never poor. You are never powerless. I'll make sure of that." 5 years later, Nicholas ran into Lauren at a Safeway in Silver Spring. She looked different. Older. Tired. But there was something else in her eyes, something that looked like peace, or maybe acceptance. "Nick," she said softly. "Hi." "Hey, Lauren." They stood there in the produce section, 2 people who used to share a life, now strangers. "I saw Ellie's picture on the Foundation's website," Lauren said. "She's beautiful. Looks just like your mom." "Yeah, she does." Are you happy?" Nicholas thought about his daughter, about the community centers, about the thousands of families his mother's money was helping, about the woman he was dating now, a teacher named Grace who loved him before she knew about the money, who saw him covered in sawdust and said, "You're exactly what I've been looking for." "Yes," he said honestly. "I'm happy. Are you?" Lauren's eyes filled with tears. "I'm trying to be. I made a lot of mistakes, Nick. Hurt a lot of people. Especially you. And I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I'm sorry. For everything." Nicholas looked at her and realized he'd been waiting 5 years to hear those words. And now that he had, they didn't change anything. "I forgive you, Lauren. Not because you deserve it, but because holding on to anger was keeping me from being the father Ellie deserves. The man my mother raised me to be." Lauren nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you." They said goodbye in that grocery store, and Nicholas knew it was the last time he'd ever see her. On the way home, Ellie asked, "Who was that lady, Daddy?" "Someone I used to know," Nicholas said. "Someone who taught me an important lesson." "What lesson?" "That sometimes the people who leave you do you the biggest favor of your life. So here's what I need you to understand. Wherever you are right now, whatever you're going through, whatever betrayal is breaking your heart, you are Nicholas. You are Eleanor. You are everyone who's ever been underestimated, abandoned, or told they weren't enough. And you are stronger than you know. If this story reminded you of that, if it showed you that rising is always an option, then I need you to do something for me. Subscribe to this channel. Not for me, but for you. Because you need to remember that you're capable of surviving anything. That your story doesn't end with someone else's betrayal. That you are never, ever powerless. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, New York, London, somewhere in between. Tell me your story if you're brave enough. Because we're building a community of people who refuse to stay down. Hit that notification bell. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, the best revenge isn't destruction. It's becoming so magnificent that the people who left you spend the rest of their lives choking on regret. Now go build something beautiful. Your mama would be proud.